The galaxy had known many wars, but none prepared them for what appeared that day. It began as a faint signal, static echoes rippling across thousands of star systems. Patrol ships from the Varn Dominion picked it up first, their scanners flickering in confusion. Something massive was moving through hyperspace. Something old. Something human. For centuries, humanity had been silent. After the fall of Earth and the burning of its colonies, the galaxy assumed mankind was finished. The Council had declared them extinct, their planets erased from the charts. Yet now, deep within the Epsilon war zone, sensors screamed. A colossal signature broke through the void, larger than any dreadnought ever built. The Varn commander, a scaled being with cold eyes, leaned forward on the bridge. "Identify that object," he hissed. "Unknown vessel, sir. Size, it's impossible. It's the size of a city." The space around them rippled like water disturbed by a storm. Then in a blinding flash it appeared, a fleet. Black, angular ships with glowing blue engines and armor that shimmered like liquid metal. At the center, a Leviathan warship emerged from hyperspace, its hull carved with symbols of a forgotten world, Earth. The command deck of the Varn ship went silent. Even the hum of machinery felt quiet. "Impossible," whispered one of the crew. "Humans don't exist anymore." "Then tell me," the commander said, his claws gripping the console. "What is that?" The human fleet didn't send a message. It didn't broadcast warnings or demands. It simply spread across the war zone like a shadow, its formation precise, perfect, predator-like. The lead ship opened its weapon bays. Energy readings skyrocketed beyond any known scale. Across the sector, dozens of alien fleets scrambled. The Kareth, the Thren, the Shori, all enemies and allies alike turned their guns toward the newcomers. The Galactic Council ordered immediate containment. "Do not engage," the transmission said. "Observe and report." But the human fleet didn't wait. The first shot came without sound, just a flash of white light that erased a Kareth cruiser in an instant. The second followed, slicing through a formation of Thren battleships like paper. The war zone became chaos. Alien fleets broke formation, trying to retreat, but hyperspace lanes collapsed under the fleet's strange energy field. No one could run. On the bridge of the human flagship Sol's Wrath, Admiral Raines stood with her hands clasped behind her back. Her uniform was simple, black with a silver crest of Earth upon her shoulder. "Target locks confirmed?" she asked calmly. "All enemy signals identified, Admiral. Orders?" Her eyes reflected the burning debris outside. "Execute Operation Reclaim." Dozens of voice channels opened at once. "Yes, Admiral." The human fleet moved like one organism. Missiles streaked through the void, railguns roared, and invisible weapons cut through the enemy shields. Every strike was efficient, no waste, no hesitation. To the aliens watching, it was not a battle, it was execution. On the Varn flagship, alarms blared as energy waves shattered their shields. "They're targeting our reactors," shouted a technician. "Evasive pattern Delta," the commander barked. But the order never finished. A blinding spear of plasma tore through the bridge, vaporizing half the crew. The last thing the commander saw before darkness was the human emblem burning on the massive ship's hull, a silver eagle with wings spread wide. Within minutes, the war zone turned silent. Ships that had fought for decades, destroyed in less than 10. The void filled with wreckage, drifting bodies, and burning fragments of fleets that once ruled this part of the galaxy. The human ships didn't pursue survivors. They simply stopped, engines glowing in eerie synchronization, like predators satisfied after the hunt. Communication channels opened across the surviving alien networks, each broadcasting the same short message. Earth Fleet Command acknowledges no surrender. The war zone is reclaimed. On the Council's central world, panic erupted. The broadcast played on every screen, every chamber. Councillors shouted over one another, disbelief spreading like fire. Humanity was extinct, one cried. "Then what are those ships?" Another yelled. "They're ghosts," a voice whispered. Ghosts that came back for revenge. Back in the war zone, Admiral Raines stood silently on her bridge. The stars reflected off her eyes, cold and distant. Around her, officers worked in silence, their faces unreadable. They had returned not for conquest, but for something deeper. Set coordinates for Phase 2, Raines said softly. Phase 2, Admiral? Her lips tightened. Earth must be remembered. Outside, the fleet shifted, forming a spearhead. Engines flared, scattering debris as they turned toward the next system. The galaxy watched in horror as the human fleet vanished into hyperspace once again, silent, precise, unstoppable. In their wake, only ruin remained, but among the wreckage, drifting in the cold vacuum, a single alien transmission managed to send a final message to the Council before its power failed. They didn't come for war. They came because we forgot them. And somewhere in the depths of space, within the heart of Sol's Wrath, Admiral Raines opened a holographic display, a small blue planet spinning slowly in the void. Her hand hovered over it, trembling for the first time. "Home," she whispered. After all this time, the engines roared, brighter than ever, and the fleet disappeared into the dark. The news of humanity's return spread across the stars like wildfire. Every empire, every syndicate, every fleet commander felt the same chill crawl through their bones. The galaxy had spent centuries fighting each other, but now all eyes turned toward a single, unstoppable power that had risen from extinction. On the burned edges of the Epsilon war zone, wreckage still drifted, silent tombs for thousands of alien soldiers. The shattered remains of the Van Dominion flagship rotated slowly, its once proud symbol flickering weakly among the debris. Scavenger drones approached cautiously, scanning the wreckage. None survived, but deep inside the floating ruins, one device still pulsed faintly, recording everything. The final image, a black human ship passing silently through the flames. At the Galactic Council chamber, the air was thick with fear. Representatives from 37 species argued, shouted, and accused each other of betrayal. "They warned us!" roared the Thren delegate, slamming his tentacled limb on the table. "We should have finished humanity when we had the chance." "And provoke that?" hissed the Van ambassador. "You saw what they did in 10 minutes. 10 minutes? They are a relic!" cried another. "No one can control them now." The council chair, a pale-skinned Zalarian elder, raised a trembling hand. "Enough! Our fleets were caught unprepared. We must understand their intent before we act. And if their intent is extermination," someone shouted. The chamber fell into silence. Meanwhile, far from the council's chaos, the human fleet prepared for its next move. On board Sol's Wrath, Admiral Helena Raines stood before the holographic map of the galaxy. Thousands of systems glowed before her, some red, some blue, and one marked bright white. "The white system," she said quietly. "That's where it began." Her second-in-command, Commander Elias Trent, turned toward her. "Our scouts report enemy reinforcements massing at Delta Line. Kareth and Thren fleets have joined forces. 2,000 ships at least." Raines didn't flinch. "Good, let them come." Trent hesitated. "Admiral, the Council's worlds are terrified. We could open communication, demand recognition, maybe even peace." Raines' gaze didn't move from the glowing map. "Peace is not given, Commander. It's earned, and they haven't earned it." Outside, the fleet began to shift formation again. Massive warships aligned into attack wedges, while carriers deployed smaller craft, sleek fighters with glowing crimson trails. The hum of power reactors echoed through the void, like the beating of a giant heart. Moments later, a soft pulse rippled through space, an encrypted human transmission. Across the fleet, every crew member heard the same voice, steady and calm. For every city burned, for every child lost, for every lie they told about Earth. We remember. The second battle began before dawn reached any planet in the sector. The alien coalition fleet, an ocean of colors, shapes, and species, waited along the asteroid belt near Delta Prime. Their ships formed a defensive wall that stretched across half a light year. They had waited 3 days, sensors locked, ready to strike, and then space itself split apart. A hole opened in the void, silent, vast, like the universe itself was torn open. Out of it, the human fleet poured like shadows from a storm. The first wave emerged with engines blazing and weapons hot. The lead ship, Saul's Wrath, moved at the center, flanked by two dreadnoughts known as Vigil and Harbinger. The aliens opened fire instantly, the sky lit with millions of plasma bolts, missile trails, and energy beams. But the human ships didn't dodge, they absorbed. Their armor shimmered as the enemy fire bent and dissipated. It was as if the ships were wrapped in living energy. Then the humans struck back. Blue-white beams erupted from Saul's Wrath, slicing through entire formations. The explosion blinded sensors for seconds, and when the light faded, 200 alien vessels were gone. Fighters swarmed from human carriers, moving in synchronized packs like hunting wolves. They tore through enemy squadrons with impossible precision. The alien admirals screamed orders. "Focus fire on the flagship!" But their weapons barely scratched the surface. Human railguns, invisible to their sensors, penetrated shields from kilometers away. Ships simply vanished, no wreckage, no debris, only silence. On the bridge of Saul's Wrath, Raines watched the unfolding destruction with calm detachment. Her crew moved like a single machine, every order executed without question, every calculation perfect. "Enemy command ship identified," reported a lieutenant. Raines nodded. "Isolate it. Disable communications, then destroy it." The targeting reticles shifted on the holographic display. Within seconds, a single pulse beam lanced through space, piercing the alien flagship's core. The explosion rippled outward, engulfing nearby vessels. The entire sector went dark. For a moment, nothing moved. Only debris and broken signals floated in the silence. The alien coalition, the most powerful combined armada the galaxy had seen in centuries, was gone. "Report," Raines said. "All hostiles neutralized. No survivors detected." She closed her eyes. "Retrieve the black boxes. We need proof for the next system." Trent hesitated. "Admiral, how many more?" Raines looked at the endless stars ahead. "Until they remember what they did to us." As the human fleet moved on, far away, the Galactic Council received the first reports from Delta Prime. The images were horrifying. Entire fleets erased. Planets burning under atmospheric shockwaves. The Council fell into chaos. Some demanded surrender. Others prepared for war. But deep down, they all knew the same truth. Humanity had returned not as victims, but as executioners. Later, in the darkness of space, one alien survivor drifted in a damaged escape pod. His breathing was shallow, his mind broken by what he had seen. Through cracked glass, he watched the stars as the faint outline of the human fleet passed overhead. He whispered into his comms, knowing no one would answer. "They don't fight for conquest. They fight because the galaxy forgot to fear them." The transmission died. Admiral Raines stood again before her map. Another system turned from red to black. "Set course for the Council worlds," she ordered. "It's time they face what they created." The engines flared to life once more, illuminating the void. Humanity's fleet vanished into hyperspace, silent, precise, unstoppable, and for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy truly understood the meaning of the word revenge. In the heart of the Galactic Council's citadel, the lights never dimmed. Fear had no night to rest. Across the grand chamber, thousands of alien delegates shouted, argued, and panicked under the holographic image spinning above them, a red, glowing outline of the human fleet cutting across the galaxy like a firestorm. No one could stop them. "They annihilated Delta Prime," the Van representative hissed. "6 fleets gone, vaporized. This is not war. This is extermination. They're using forbidden tech," another cried. "Shields that bend physics, weapons that don't even register on our sensors." "Enough!" roared Councillor Chavren, his crystalline skin reflecting the chamber's flickering light. "We can argue later. We must know where they came from." At that moment, an aide rushed into the chamber, clutching a holopad. "We found something," she said breathlessly. "It's an old record, from the fall of Earth." The chamber fell silent. The holopad projected a dusty, ancient transmission, a trembling human scientist, eyes bloodshot, speaking into a camera surrounded by smoke and fire. They called it mercy. The council called it cleansing, but we called it what it was, genocide. They destroyed Earth's skies. They burned our oceans. They erased us from their history. But they forgot one thing. Humanity remembers. The image froze, then faded to static. In that single moment, realization swept across the council. The human fleet wasn't a new threat, it was a promise. A promise that had waited hundreds of years to be fulfilled. Across the stars, deep in the blackness of uncharted space, the human fleet sailed onward. On the bridge of Sol's Wrath, Admiral Raines stood before a projection of Earth, not as it was, but as it had been. Blue, alive, whole? Around her, the command deck glowed in the soft red of alert mode. Commander Trent approached quietly. "Admiral, we intercepted Council transmissions. They finally remembered the cleansing." Raines's gaze didn't shift. "Good. Let them remember what they did." Trent hesitated. "Do you ever wonder if this," he gestured to the endless destruction outside, "is what we've become?" Raines finally turned toward him. Her eyes were cold steel. "They erased billions of us, Commander. My mother, my home, my planet. This isn't who we've become. This is who we always were. Survivors." She walked to the main viewport, where the shattered light of stars glimmered across her reflection. "They thought killing us would make them gods," she murmured. "Now they'll learn what it means to face their creation." Outside, the fleet moved like a black storm. Hundreds of ships in perfect formation, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, each forged from stolen alien technology and rebuilt with human rage. They were silent, disciplined, unstoppable. "Admiral," said the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from the Council itself." "Open it!" The hologram flickered to life. Councillor Chavren's face appeared, pale and trembling. "Admiral Raines," he began, voice shaking, "this galaxy believed humanity was lost. If vengeance is your goal, you've made your point. We propose..." "Propose what?" Raines interrupted coldly. "That we forgive? That we forget?" Chavren swallowed. "If we unite, if we share our knowledge, we can rebuild." Raines' voice cut through the transmission like a blade. "You didn't want to rebuild when Earth burned. You wanted us erased. You wrote our extinction into your history books." The councillor's voice faltered. "What do you want, Admiral?" Raines leaned forward, her eyes piercing through the hologram. "I want you to remember." She motioned to her tactical officer. "Transmit the recording." Moments later, every council world, every colony, every communication relay across the galaxy received the same broadcast, the old Earth transmission. Billions watched in silence as the truth they'd buried resurfaced. Cities fell quiet. Fleets stopped mid-flight. The image of a burning blue planet echoed across the stars, and then Sol's Wrath appeared in their skies. The human fleet entered council space like an avenging god. Worlds that had never seen war trembled as the night sky filled with metallic shadows. No fleet moved to intercept. Undared, humanity had become a myth that no one wanted to face. Until now, Admiral Raines stood on the bridge, the stars of the council system glinting through the glass. "Prepare orbital suppression," she ordered. Commander Trent hesitated. "We're targeting a civilian world." Her tone softened just slightly. "We don't fire unless fired upon, but they need to see our strength." The fleet spread across orbit, their silhouettes blotting out the sun. Thousands of defense satellites activated, but none fired. Instead, the human fleet projected a massive holographic image into the sky. Earth, reborn and radiant. A voice echoed through every device, every city, every world. "We are humanity. You erased our name, our history, our home, but you could not erase our will. We have returned, not to conquer, but to remind you. We endure, we evolve, we remember." For the first time, no one fired. The Council's fleet stood still. People across the galaxy watched in awe, fear, and shame. On Sol's Wrath, Raines turned away from the projection. "Broadcast complete," said the officer. "Good," she replied softly. "Then we've done what we came for." But as she looked at the map, her expression changed. A new red marker blinked near the edge of the system. "What's that?" she asked. The officer frowned. "Unknown contact. Energy readings, massive. Bigger than anything we've seen before." Raines stared at the display. "Council wouldn't risk a trap this close." Trent's face went pale. "Admiral, that's not a council signal. What is it then?" He looked up. "It's human." The bridge fell silent. Outside, the void began to twist. Something enormous was emerging from hyperspace, blacker than space itself. A ship so massive it dwarfed even Sol's Wrath. The crew stared in disbelief. The old legends spoke of it, a ship that vanished before Earth fell. Humanity's first and last supercarrier. Raines whispered the name like a ghost. Eden's Gate. The forgotten flagship of the First Fleet had returned. Its arrival would change everything. The moment the colossal shadow of Eden's Gate appeared, even the veterans aboard Sol's Wrath forgot to breathe. The ship was so massive that it eclipsed entire moons, a silent titan emerging from the folds of hyperspace. Its hull was blackened with time, its armor scarred by battles long past. Yet it still glowed faintly with blue veins of power running through its body like the veins of a living god. Alarms flickered across the bridge as sensors scrambled to understand what they were seeing. "Admiral, energy readings are off every scale," said the sensor officer, voice shaking. "That ship's reactor output is impossible." Raines' eyes never left the viewport. "No signal broadcast?" "None, ma'am." "It's not identifying itself." The silence of space felt heavier than any weapon. Then slowly, a single light shimmered across Eden's Gate's hull, a pulse like a heartbeat. A communication beam locked onto Sol's Wrath. "Patch it through," Raines ordered. The hologram flickered to life, and a man appeared, old, weathered, his uniform ancient, his insignia faded, but unmistakably human. The background behind him looked like the interior of an ancient command bridge, filled with holographic projections of Earth's oceans and mountains. "Admiral Helena Raines," he said, his voice deep and calm, like a man who had been waiting centuries to speak. "I am Fleet Marshal Adrian Holt, commanding officer of Eden's Gate." Raines stiffened. Fleet Marshal Holt was declared missing 3 centuries ago. "Then it seems my mission was longer than planned," Holt replied with a faint smile. "You've done well, Admiral. Humanity survived. But your war is not over." The entire command deck froze. Raines stepped forward. "You were there, weren't you?" "When Earth fell," Holt nodded slowly. "I watched it burn. I watched the sky turn red. But Eden's Gate wasn't destroyed. We went dark. We went deep, beneath the galactic rim, beyond Council senses. We rebuilt what was left of us. And we waited. Waited for what?" she asked. Holt's image leaned closer. "For you. For this moment. Humanity's return was never meant to be blind vengeance, Admiral. It was meant to be balance." The bridge lights flickered as the connection deepened. Suddenly, a flood of encrypted data began streaming into Sol's Wrath systems. Blueprints, mission logs, audio files, and recordings from Earth's last days. Raines stared at the screens. Her hands trembled slightly as one file opened, her mother's voice, preserved from the evacuation days. "If anyone hears this, remember why we built the fleet. Not for conquest, for justice, for home." Her heart tightened, but her voice stayed steady. "Why reveal yourself now, Marshal?" Holt's eyes hardened. "Because your message woke the galaxy. You made them remember their sins. Now they'll come for us again, united this time. You need Eden's Gate to survive what comes next." Before Raines could respond, the ship's sensors began to blare. Commander Trent shouted, "Admiral! Multiple jump signatures! Thousands of ships! Council armadas converging on our position." Raines's jaw tightened. "Of course they did." Holt's hologram smiled grimly. "Then it begins again." Outside, the fabric of space twisted as the combined fleets of the Galactic Council poured out of hyperspace, a sea of colors and weapon trails filling the void. Dozens of species, hundreds of banners, all united by a single purpose: stop humanity before it was too late. But now they faced 2 human titans, Sol's Wrath and Eden's Gate. The Council's lead commander transmitted across the channels. "This is Supreme Admiral Kravos of the Galactic Unity Fleet. To the vessels identifying as human origin, You are surrounded. Surrender now and you may be spared. Raines exhaled slowly. They really don't learn. Holt's hologram faded as his ship's engines glowed brighter than suns. Admiral Raines, his final words echoed, show them what it means to fear us again. Then Eden's gate moved. The air itself seemed to bend. Shockwaves rippled through the void as the ancient supercarrier activated its main drive, a dark matter engine that had not burned in centuries. Beams of condensed gravity ripped through the Council formations, tearing ships apart without even touching them. Raines' fleet followed instantly. Sol's Wrath and her sister ships opened fire with precise, calculated fury. The darkness of space erupted into light, streaks of blue and white plasma cutting through enemy shields like paper. The Council fleets retaliated, thousands of weapons firing at once. The sky became a hurricane of fire, but Eden's Gate's shields absorbed it all. Each impact shimmered like rain on metal. Commander Trent shouted, "They're surrounding our left flank." "Not for long," Raines replied. "Deploy Wing 6. Push them toward Eden's Gate." Hundreds of human fighters streaked across the battlefield, weaving through explosions, forming kill patterns with ruthless precision. Alien ships scattered, breaking formation. For the first time, the Council realized what they were facing: a civilization reborn through rage, perfected by exile, unbroken by time. In the chaos, Eden's Gate released something massive, a swarm of autonomous drones, black and silent. Each carrying the emblem of Earth, they spread through the enemy lines like locusts, cutting engines, disabling weapons, tearing ships apart from within. Within minutes, the Council's mighty Unity fleet crumbled. Raines stood on the bridge, her eyes reflecting the fire outside. "Marshal Holt," she said through the comms, "your ship just saved us." His image reappeared, faintly smiling. "No, Admiral. You saved us. Humanity only needed a spark to rise again." But before he could say more, Eden's Gate shook violently. The hull groaned, alarms screamed. "Admiral!" Trent shouted. "Energy overload on Eden's Gate. Their core is destabilizing." Raines' blood ran cold. "Holt, what's happening?" His voice came through static. "Old wounds, old tech. She's too old to fight like this. Marshal, pull back!" He shook his head. "No, if I pull back, they'll follow you. You must finish the mission. Remember Earth, Helena." The connection cut. Outside, Eden's Gate's hull glowed white-hot. The ship turned toward the densest part of the enemy formation, the heart of the Council fleet. Then, without warning, its engines roared one final time. A wave of light swallowed the stars. The explosion was silent, vast, and beautiful, like the rebirth of a sun. When it faded, half the Council fleet was gone. Eden's Gate had vanished, leaving only drifting fragments and a shockwave that rippled across the entire system. The remaining alien ships scattered, terrified. Humanity stood victorious again, but at a price. Raines stared into the light fading on the horizon, her face cold and unreadable. "He waited centuries to die for us," she whispered. Trent lowered his head. "What now, Admiral?" She turned back to the map. "Now we end it. Once and for all." The fleet reformed, engines glowing like ghosts in the dark. And somewhere beyond the stars, the last fragments of Eden's Gate drifted silently, a monument to humanity's oldest promise. The galaxy had not known silence in ages. Yet after the death of Eden's Gate, the void seemed to hold its breath. Debris from thousands of ships drifted across the stars like ash. The explosion had carved a wound through the system that even the laws of physics struggled to heal. For a brief moment the war paused, not out of peace but out of shock. On the bridge of Sol's Wrath, Admiral Helena Raines stood motionless, the faint light from the dying battle reflected in her eyes. "Eden's Gate," she whispered, her voice caught between grief and fury. Around her, the crew worked in silence. Not a single cheer of victory, only the hum of power and the weight of sacrifice. Commander Trent stepped beside her. "Marshal Holt bought us time, but the Council fleet is reforming in the core systems. We'll be outnumbered 10-1. Raines turned to him. "Not for long. Plot a course to the Council homeworld." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. Everyone knew what that meant. The Council homeworld, Archon Prime, was the political and military heart of the galaxy. To strike there was to declare the final war. Trent swallowed hard. If we do this, there's no going back. Raines' gaze didn't waver. And there was never any going back. The order spread through the fleet. Engines roared, drives charged, and within minutes, the sky tore open as hundreds of human ships entered hyperspace together, a storm of vengeance racing toward the core. Archon Prime was a world of shining spires and floating citadels. It had never seen war. The people believed themselves untouchable, guarded by the most powerful defensive array ever built, a planetary shield capable of withstanding supernovas. But when the human fleet exited hyperspace, every defense system on Archon Prime went into panic mode. The alert spread across the planet. Human fleet detected. Brace for engagement. On the surface, crowds gathered, staring up at the dark sky as shadows began to cover the sun. Children pointed at the strange shapes in orbit, unaware that history itself was arriving above them. In the Council Tower, chaos reigned. Alarms blared, while soldiers rushed to their stations. The surviving council members screamed orders at one another. "This is madness," shouted one. "They destroyed 3 fleets. We can't fight them." "We must," another yelled. "If we fall, the galaxy falls." Councillor Chavren, the same who once tried to negotiate with Raines, sat silently, his hands trembling. He had seen the old Earth transmissions. He knew the truth that others still refused to admit. "We brought this upon ourselves," he murmured. "We erased them, and now their ghosts have come to collect the debt." Above the planet, Sol's Wrath took position at the head of the fleet. Raines stared at the massive shield surrounding Archon Prime, a glowing sphere of blue energy that wrapped the world like a second skin. "Target analysis," she ordered. "Planetary barrier is stable, Admiral. No known weapon in history has ever breached it." Raines gave a thin smile. "Then it's time to make history." The ship's reactors hummed louder, charging weapons never before seen by the galaxy. The fleet's formation tightened, every ship aligning into a perfect grid. Energy arcs danced between them as power channeled towards Sol's Wrath's main cannon. Commander Trent looked uneasy. "Admiral, this will drain everything. We'll be defenseless if it fails." Raines' eyes hardened. "It won't fail. Outside, the weapon charged." Blue light pulsed along the fleet's spine until it became blinding. Across the planet, civilians watched the sky ignite. Then the weapon fired, a single colossal beam of condensed dark matter cutting through space like a blade. The impact shook the heavens. The planetary shield flared, screamed, and cracked like glass. For the first time in its existence, it failed. The beam sliced into the atmosphere, carving a line of fire across the clouds before fading. Silence followed, then panic. Sirens screamed as the people of Archon Prime realized the unthinkable had happened. The shield was down. "Shields collapsed, Admiral," reported the officer. "Direct hit!" Raines' voice was calm. "All ships, hold position." She stared at the planet below. Open channel to the Council. A hologram appeared before her. Councillor Chavren, his face pale, the room behind him shaking from explosions. "Admiral Raines, please," he began. "Millions of innocent lives." "Innocent," she cut in sharply. "You sat in that tower while Earth burned. You voted for our extinction." "I wasn't there," he said weakly. "That was generations ago." Raines' eyes narrowed. "Then you've inherited their guilt," Chavren's voice trembled. "If you destroy Archon Prime, you'll become the very monsters you swore to fight." For a long moment, no one spoke. The bridge was silent, except for the low hum of the engines. Finally, Raines spoke, her voice softer than before. "I don't want to destroy your world, Counselor. I want you to understand what it means to lose everything." She turned to her communications officer. "Transmit. Across the planet, every screen flickered, in homes, in streets, in bunkers. The people of Archon Prime watched as their skies filled with human ships." Then the message began. It was Raines herself, standing tall in her uniform. "We are humanity. You called us dangerous, unfit for your galaxy. You burned our home, silenced our history and erased our name. But we endured. We rebuilt in the shadows. And now we stand above your world, not as conquerors, but as witnesses. Remember us. Remember what you tried to destroy. The transmission ended. Raines lowered her hand. Deploy the pulse. From Sol's Wrath's belly, a device dropped into orbit, a gravity pulse bomb. But instead of destroying, it released a wave of energy that disabled every weapon system, every defense satellite, every piece of military tech across the planet. Within seconds, Archon Prime was completely disarmed. The people watched as the fleet turned away, leaving them alive but powerless. Commander Trent exhaled in disbelief. You spared them. Raines looked at him, her expression unreadable. We've already shown them what we could do. Fear will do the rest. But even as the fleet began to pull away, new readings appeared on the sensors. The officer frowned. Admiral, we're picking up something below the planet's surface. Massive energy spike. It's coming from inside Archon Prime. Raines turned sharply. Inside? Yes, ma'am, it's human in origin. The bridge went still. Raines stared at the display. That's impossible. There are no human colonies here, Trent whispered, unless someone was left behind. As the realization sank in, the planet below began to glow faintly from within, a heartbeat of light rising from its core. Raines' eyes widened. That's not a weapon. It's a signal. The comms officer looked up, voice trembling. Admiral, the signal's message is clear. It's repeating one phrase. Raines stepped forward. Play it! The speakers crackled, and a human voice, ancient and distorted, filled the bridge. We never left. Earth still lives, the crew froze. Raina's heart pounded. She looked out the viewport, where the planet's light grew brighter with every second. Whatever was hidden beneath Archon Prime was awakening. The light from Archon Prime's core grew until it painted the entire hemisphere silver. From orbit, the planet no longer looked blue-green, but alive, pulsing, breathing. On the bridge of Sol's Wrath, every console flashed red as readings spiked beyond known limits. Admiral, that energy signature is climbing fast. The sensor officer called. It's not a weapon, it's broadcasting. To whom? Raines asked quietly. Every system in the galaxy, ma'am. It's sending coordinates. And a single phrase. Return home. No one spoke. The words hung in the air like a ghost's whisper. Commander Trent turned slowly. Could there really be another Earth? A colony? Raines shook her head. Not a colony. A continuation. The holographic projection over the bridge shifted. From deep beneath Archon Prime, a vast structure unfolded, metal veins and hidden vaults that stretched for miles below the surface. It wasn't alien at all. It was human. Raines stepped closer. They buried it under the Council's feet. On the planet below, the people of Archon Prime watched in terror as sections of their world's crust began to move. Mountains split open, revealing enormous shafts of silver machinery. Ancient engines, long dormant, flickered back to life. From one of those rifts, an elevator platform rose, carrying rows of armored figures, humans but different. Their armor was white, their eyes luminescent, their insignias unfamiliar. They carried no weapons drawn, only the emblem of Earth etched on their chests. Raines' voice came over open channels. Identify yourselves. A woman appeared on the transmission, her face calm and resolute. I am Commander Mira Cade of the Preservation Corps. We have waited 300 years for your arrival, Admiral Raines. Raines froze. Waited? Yes, Cade replied. When the Council destroyed Earth, a fragment of our people was hidden within Archon Prime itself. The Council needed workers, scientists, builders. They took survivors, and we hid among them. We built beneath their world, preserving what was left of our species. Trent stared at the feed in disbelief. They were under the Council's capital all this time? Cade nodded. We have watched the galaxy rise and fall, waiting for the signal, the return of humanity's fleet. That light you see is the Heart Core, a fragment of Earth's own planetary AI. It remembers every city, every ocean, every life lost. Raines's throat tightened. Then Earth isn't dead, Cade smiled faintly. No, Earth lives within us, and now it's ready to live again. The fleet repositioned in orbit as Cade transmitted encrypted data. Massive schematics filled Sol's Wrath's holotable, plans for an arc engine capable of reseeding a world, rebuilding an atmosphere, and restoring ecosystems from stored genetic libraries, Trent whispered. They built a way to remake Earth, but beneath the awe came another sound, the low, rising hum of approaching ships. "Admiral," the comms officer warned, "Council reinforcements incoming." Dozens of fleets jumping in from the outer rim. "They're ignoring ceasefire codes?" Raines clenched her fists. "They think we're weak after Archon Prime," Cade's voice interrupted. "We can help defend the planet. Our defense grid is linked to the heart core. But if the Council damages it, the entire system will collapse." Raines looked to her crew. "Then we fight one last time to protect what's left of home." The Council fleets emerged like a storm, tens of thousands of ships encircling Archon Prime, their weapons already glowing. The sky darkened as energy beams lanced through space. Raines didn't hesitate. "Deploy Formation Aegis. Cover the planet at all costs." Human ships shifted into a living shield. The first volleys struck them head-on, lighting the heavens in blue and gold. The void thundered with explosions as fighters engaged in chaotic swarms. For every human vessel destroyed, 3 Council ships burned. On the surface, the Preservation Corps activated their ancient defenses. Towers rose from the ground, firing beams of concentrated light that shredded enemy cruisers. The planet itself fought back, but the Council's numbers were endless. They pushed closer, wave after wave. Sol's Wrath shook violently as impacts rippled across its shields. "Admiral, we can't hold much longer." Raines gritted her teeth. "Then we do what humans always do. We endure." At that moment, the heart core pulsed again, brighter, stronger. Cade's voice came through the static. "Admiral, the core is ready. It can open a channel across the stars to the real Earth." Raines froze. "The real Earth?" "Yes," Cade replied. "The original planet wasn't destroyed. It was hidden." The bridge fell silent. "Hidden where?" Raines demanded. "Inside a quantum fold beyond the galactic rim," Cade said. "The old governments faked its destruction to protect it. They feared what the Council would do if they ever found it. Now the core can bring it back." Trent's eyes widened. "Bring it back? You mean—" "Yes," Cade interrupted. "Earth can return." Outside, the heart core's light expanded, surrounding Archon Prime like a cocoon. Energy waves spread outward, distorting the stars themselves. Council ships froze in place as their systems overloaded. The very space around the planet began to ripple, bending, shifting, glowing blue-white. Raines stood tall on the bridge, her voice steady despite the shaking deck. "All ships hold position, no firing. Let it happen." The light consumed everything. When it faded, the battlefield was gone. Archon Prime still floated in space, but beyond it, where empty stars once lay, a new world shone. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. Earth had returned. The comms erupted with voices, stunned, disbelieving, weeping. On the surface below, humans who had never seen their ancestral home fell to their knees, crying beneath the light of a sky that felt like memory. Raines' voice broke the silence. "Transmit this to the galaxy." Across every channel, every world, her message rang clear. The cycle is over. Humanity has come home. The war ends now. Days later, as peace envoys arrived and the surviving fleets disarmed, Admiral Raines stood on the balcony of Sol's Wrath, watching the new Earth spin beneath her. Commander Trent joined her quietly. "Do you think they'll let us keep it this time?" he asked. Raines smiled faintly. "They don't get to let us. We've earned it." Below, lights began to twinkle across continents, the first human cities reborn. For the first time in centuries, no one fired a weapon. Humanity had endured extinction, exile and hatred, yet here they were beneath familiar stars, rewriting the galaxy's future. Raines looked to the horizon, her voice soft but firm. "We were never dangerous. We were just unfinished." And as the dawn rose over the reborn Earth, the fleet that had once brought vengeance now brought hope, the final chapter of a species that refused to die.